World's worst humans. We got a sign right there. All right, so don't come here and tell me that these are good humans. Hello, my name is Dex Carrington. Welcome to World's Worst Humans. As we all know, every good love story ends with murder. I know all of mine have.
We chatted on the dark and grim, laughed through tales of twisted whims.
Sada Abe was born in 1905, May 28th. Totally normal family that made tatami mats. What are you gonna, sit on that pony without a tatami mat? Good luck with that. So, because it's such a normal family, her dad was adopted into the family to make tatami mats. He was 52 years old when she was born. And then she had a sister who was very promiscuous, and her mother, which was described as being very ugly, then punished her sister for being promiscuous by sending her to work at a brothel, which was very normal at the time. Oh, you want to sleep around, do you? Well, sleep with the whole village, that kind of thing. And then also she had a brother who ran off with all the money the whole family had. Your basic family, that's all I'm saying. She was her mom's favorite, and she could do no wrong. And her big dream was to become a geisha one day, and so she would skip school to like focus on geisha makeup and like learn how to do geisha dancing, a bunch of geisha stuff. Let's just put it that way. But because of the brother who was continuously trying to steal the money from the parents and the family in general, he took a lot of focus. So Sada was left to her own devices. Oh, it's so boring. Her life is so boring so far. She's got to become terrible soon. But anyway, because her brother was being such a drug addict guy or whatever he was doing to, steal all his parents' money and ruin the tatami mat business, then she was left to her own device. She started hanging out with a gang of the cool kids, and then there someone had sex with her against her will. And then obviously the parents found out, not obvious at all, but they did find out. And so they decided to punish her by selling her to a geisha house in 1922. Yeah, it was 22, in Yokohama. She wanted to be a geisha her whole life, but she didn't have geisha training. It's a lot of geisha stuff. This is insane. Okay. She's working as a geisha, but she doesn't have official training, so she's basically just a prostitute. I mean, not just. She's a high-level she's a very important prostitute. All right, let's do this again. So anyway, she became a prostitute, basically, at this geisha house and contracted syphilis, which obviously, I mean, is its own kind of reward. But but then she goes, no, you know what? I don't feel free here, not on my watch. So then she becomes a freelance prostitute. But then she goes, you know what? I'm done with this whole thing. I'm tired of being a prostitute in general. So then she goes to work at a restaurant. Not enough money at the restaurant, goes back to being a prostitute, but this time at an illegal brothel in Tokyo. So, again, it's just a new type of prostitution. Prostitution came in very many forms at the time. I guess that's really the take-home point of this presentation. If you wanted to be a prostitute in the early 1920s in Japan, there were a lot of options. So the illegal brothel was raided by the police. She goes back to the restaurant world and goes to work at a restaurant that specializes in eel, which is obviously where you want to be. And the restaurant owner was called Ishida, and he was a womanizer. So he spent all his time hitting on women, and his wife ran the restaurant. And now the chessboard is set for the actual unfolding of the story. Man, that's a lot of backstory. So she starts working at this restaurant. Ishida immediately hits on her, just pew, lasers her in with his womanizer moves. And they just have this passionate love affair that lasts like first days and days and days and days and days, and then weeks, and just losing track of time, and drinking, and they're like renting in geishas and like throwing money at them and like forcing them to watch. You know what I mean? Like bringing in like animals. Like, oh god, yeah, look how much we love each other. Like everything's all super intense. They're totally in this parallel dimension of insanity, otherwise known as love. So then after a couple of weeks, he goes back to his wife, and then Sada is sitting there, and she's just so jealous. So she threatens to kill him with a knife. Again, how else would you ever communicate that you were in love with someone unless you threaten to kill them? Is it even love? Would be my question, if you haven't threatened to kill them. And at the same time, she's also drinking very heavily. So obviously, Ishida and Sada, is that their name? Abe? What the fuck do you call these people? So obviously, Sada and Ishida reignite the affair. Who could ever resist a jealous, drunk woman threatening you with a knife? That's what everybody wants. That's the dream. It always has been. So, I mean, they're really getting into it hot and heavy. They're strangling each other. They're involving the knife in the sex now. And at one point, she just puts the knife right under his genitals and says, "I'm going to cut these off." And he responds, "You know what? I like what you're saying here. I like what you're thinking. I like where this is going." And she goes, "Great. I'm going to strangle you now for as long as I possibly can." And so he passes out from the strangling. He wakes up from the strangling. Knife is still there, by the way. That's always part of it now. And they are just really getting into this idea of her cutting off his genitals and strangling him at the same time. And he's thinking like, okay, this is the woman for me. Too bad I'm married, because obviously this is way better than marriage and running a restaurant. So he says to her, "You know, this feels so amazing that next time you should just kill me." And she goes, "Maybe I will." And they're flirting, as one does when it comes to asphyxiation. And two days later, she strangles him to death in his sleep, as one would. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Not kill the person you threatened to kill? I mean, that would just be pathetic. They would never respect you again. After she kills him, she basically explained later on that she'd never felt so calm in her whole life. And, you know, I know all the murderers I know in my life, they always say that after they kill someone, they feel so calm, you know, like yoga for a middle-aged woman-ish. So she's sitting there next to the dead body. And then the question always is like, what do you do when you're sitting there next to a dead body? Great question. Love where your head's at. So what she chose to do was, in her own blood, she wrote, "We, Sada and Ishida, are alone," which, you know, she showed them, to put it that way. And then obviously she just took out a knife and carved her name into his arm, and then cut off his genitals and put them in her pocket and ran out of the hotel room. Is it even love if you're just gonna like not even carve your name into them, or like write a poem in blood? No, I don't think so. You can claim to have been in love, but if you're not writing stuff in blood, carving your name into people's bodies, and cutting off people's genitals, then I think it's just puppy love. I don't think you were really genuinely invested. It certainly doesn't have marriage written all over it. I'll put it to you that way. So the hotel staff discover this guy's body, and the manhunt is on. But surprisingly, she's just wandering around town, and later on said that she didn't notice a manhunt at all. Like, no one was even after her. She sat down in a bar, ordered a couple of beers, started writing farewell letters to, you know, her friends and family, and she was going to jump off a mountain and take her life that way, holding on to his genitals all the while, which again was like, it's got sanity written all over it. And just to quote her here, because obviously she's going to take her own life, obviously, but she wants to have sex with this guy one last time. And whoop, wouldn't you know it, right there in her pocket, she has what she needs to make that happen. So she takes his genitals, shoves them in her mouth. Again, perfectly sane first move to do. What would you like? What would you do if it wasn't that? If you were to convince me you loved the guy, right? That's my question. So then she tried to penetrate herself with it many times, and it didn't work. Surprisingly, I don't know why it didn't work. That's insane. But she kept trying, and that's the sane part. And then she basically just decided to flee to Osaka with the guy's genitals, and her plan was to jump off a mountain, holding on to them for dear life. And so, again, what's the lesson here? So many. Don't know where to begin. So, at the end of the day, here's a woman with a plan. She knows where she's going. She knows what she's doing. She knows why she's doing it. We can respect that. But now the police find her, and so they, you know, corner her and go, "What the hell's going on?" She confesses to the crime. She goes, "Fine, I killed this guy." And they don't believe her. So she goes, "Okay, I'm going to show you the evidence." And she takes out the guy's genitals. Now, if you really want to prove that, you know, you did something bad, nothing screams "I did something bad" like taking somebody's genitals out of your pocket. So then she gets arrested because now they believe her. And as she's being like taken into custody, she said, "I just loved the guy so much. I wanted him all to myself. And that's why I killed him. And as long as he was alive, he could be with other women, which is not cool. Which is perfectly logical, because it is so true. If he was alive, he could be with other people. And then she would be jealous. And then who are the winners and losers, right? This is a woman who takes action. She knows what she wants, and she gets it. And she's got genitals in her pocket. Now, I mean, I don't know who you look up to, but I look up to people that are doers. And then she also stated to the police the reason why she cut off his genitals was because she couldn't take his head or his body with her. Obviously, you always want the head, you know? Listen, you're jealous. You're in love. You murder someone. You want the head. You want to walk out like this. And she couldn't do it. So I could never respect her, and neither could you, if she didn't at least bring something. When she's in the courtroom, she just begs to be executed, which again is just a testament to her sanity level. Just screaming at a judge, murder me. And no, she gets 6 years in prison. She only serves 5. She comes out after 5. She's totally free. She goes, you know what? I'm gonna lay low. But people are really interested in her story. She is now the woman who took action in her relationship, and everybody wants a piece. So she does a bunch of interviews, and then she gets really, really famous. And then the police confessions, the transcripts, are turned into a book, and in 1948 become a bestseller. In 1975, a movie is made about her. People like this story because they wish it was their story. Because until this happened, everyone thought I was in love. You know, we had this great relationship. It was a whirlwind of romance. And then they hear about this and they realize we had nothing. It was all just a facade, an illusion. It was all lies. This is what we all wanted the whole time. And that's why people kept reading the book. Tell us more, you know. I want the police transcripts. You know, I wish my relationship was a police transcript. And then people go like, oh, no way, you've been married for 50 years? How good was it? Well, you know, it's just been great. Really? Where are the transcripts from the police station? From the murder? Sada Abe just went back to working as a waitress for the next 20 years. She was a great employee. I mean, she was great the whole time, let's be honest. And and then 1970, hold on. For the next 20 years, since when? Since when? After she got out of prison, she spent the next 20 years working as a waitress. And then 1970, she just disappeared. And then some people, you know, thought she became a nun and lived at a convent or whatever. But nobody knows, but she just disappeared forever in 1970. No one heard from her ever again. But this guy's genitals were in a museum for, like, it was the Tokyo University Medical School Museum for years and years and years. And then they disappeared without a trace in 1970, just like Sada Abe. Now, the more important question is like, who was paying attention to these museum genitals so often that they in fact noticed that they were missing? Like, oh yeah, I'm just taking my daily trip to the museum to look at the genitals again. Okay, even if you were a guy who went to this museum every day to look at your favorite genitals, if they were missing, like, who has the audacity to, like, excuse me, can you get the boss, please? Like, I'd like to speak to the manager. And it's like, oh, what is it? Oh, it's about the genitals.
We chatted on the dark and grim, laughed through tales of twisted whim.